should maybe be like, we're never funny, but we're so funny.
My husband does not think we're funny. Well, he hasn't called you out, but
So funny.
I'm not funny apparently. I think I'm hilarious. We're going to talk about, maybe not when we're talking about chronic pain, but well, you need to laugh or you'll cry with chronic pain.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about building a toolbox for chronic pain. One of the things that I see happen a lot is that someone will have a flare-up, which is a normal part of recovery, and they will panic and forget all of the things that they've learned about their body and what they should do for flare-up management. So we call it a toolbox for pain. Do you want to describe like a toolbox for pain?
So a toolbox for pain, I'm just laughing. It looks different. I call it like your SOS package.
Your SOS package?
It can look different for everybody. So like if heat is helpful to your pain, that's something that you'll have in your toolbox. If there's medications that have been prescribed to you that are helpful for your pain, those will be in your toolbox. If there's a certain type of movement like stretching or maybe a walk or Epsom salt baths, like you will personally, like part of rehab is often figuring out what are the things that work really well for me in my toolbox. Maybe it's seeing your massage therapist, maybe it's seeing your osteopath, maybe it's seeing your acupuncturist, your chiropractor, like
using a TENS unit. Maybe it's like watching a funny movie or reading a funny book or like having a good cry or taking a nap or just canceling all your plans for the weekend. Like
it could be like it is important to spend time knowing what works in your personal toolbox, because that is what you need to go back to when you have a flare-up.
Yeah, and so what I do is I get a blank piece of paper and I write at the top of it toolbox, and I sit with my patient and I say, okay, list all of the things that have ever helped you manage or cope with pain. And I have them write it down. Sometimes they'll get stuck. I try to like zip it and let them come up with things. I don't know if it's hard for me to not talk, but I try to just let them write things down. And then if they struggle, I'll say some of the things that my other patients have found useful are blah, 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 blah. But I think that a lot of people forget like the mental health part of it as well. So that's why I'm always kind of like 10 minutes in nature has actually been shown to help improve depression, anxiety, and stress levels, which we know ultimately can help with pain.
What do you think? Google, like box breathing, like exhalation, and there's so many techniques, and I know they seem so simple, but it really resets your nervous system, and it resets your mental health,
heart rate, anxiety, and for chronic pelvic pain, like it really does engage the pelvic floor muscles when you do deep breathing. So there's lots of reasons for that. Light social contact. Sometimes like watching, it's funny because I was listening to a podcast and they're talking about how like watching film, especially if it has a stressful moment in it, because you'll work through like the character's stress and then you'll come out feeling like, oh, I survived like Indiana Jones's adventure or whatever.
You're telling me like, because I'm so guilty of this, my husband will be like, I want to watch like whatever show on Netflix. I'm like, I can't take this late at night. Like I can't deal with this at night.
But you knew your limit of when to watch it. Maybe you don't watch it late at night, but you can like live vicariously through a character.
I still have trauma from watching Freddy Krueger when I was like 10 years old. I still sleep with my sheets wrapped around my feet because he's going to come up through the bench.
Maybe don't choose that movie. Maybe not that one. But certainly there are other things that you can be doing. And then to have that piece of paper physically put somewhere. Because it's like you get this panic when you've had chronic pain and you have a flare-up and you know how long it can take to get out of a flare-up. And they forget. And I've had a lot of patients say, you know what, I had to go to my fridge and physically like, take it off the fridge and be like, start with 10 minutes of heat, put on TENS unit, do stretches. And it sounds so silly, but it can make the world of difference to have this plan laid out in front of you so that you don't have to think, you just know immediately what to start doing. Follow your toolbox. When people really struggle to determine what should be in their toolbox, sometimes I'll give them a pain journal as well. And the pain journal will capture like everything. It will ask like, how much did you sleep that night? Who were you with? What activities did you do? What activities were you doing 3 hours before? What's your nutrition like? Where are you in your hormonal cycle if you're female and you have like cyclically hormonal changes? And to start looking for patterns. So it's a little bit annoying in that you have to capture it for weeks, but you can really start to see patterns of like, okay, I can start to predict when I'm going to have a flare-up, which is the best. If you can predict when you're going to have a flare-up, you can run the flare-up plan to change and alter the risk of actually having a flare-up. So if you know when work or school gets busy that you tend to have a flare-up after exam time, then we can start implementing changes
I was
before
just going to
that.
give that example. Like, I have a couple of teachers on caseload.
Oh my gosh, report card time.
They know. Like, we have now discovered that, like, their pain does have a huge stress aspect to it. Therefore, if they know they're coming into a time when they can't control the stressors as much as they can sometimes during the rest of the year, we literally purposefully set them up, like, leading into May and June to, like, help get through that stressful period where, like, they don't have a lot of say in some of the stresses that are put on their plate.
Like, schedule your massage appointment. A 10-minute walk becomes non-negotiable. Like,
even if you're
things.
feeling great, you're going to use your 10s for like 10 minutes at night before you go to bed while you do your breathing. Like, we try to like really chunk it up into things to be preventative.
Yeah, but you have to be starting to track yourself to see these patterns and learn these patterns.
And it took a long time. It took like 6 to 12 months for some of these patients to realize how much stress was impacting their symptoms.
Yeah, but when pain persists, you might as well be working on something to help in the future, right? All right, I think that's pretty good. With 5 minutes. Well, 6 minutes. Okay.
Got some like weird funny.
Sometimes. Bye.